May I kindly request the male professors to take off their caps. I will open this session with a prayer. May we be filled with the breath of life, which will guide us towards the wisdom and knowledge, to heal that which seems incurable, and to accomplish that which seems impossible. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming to the official opening of the academic year. Today we have a hopefully very interesting program for you today. It's going to be all about traditions and innovation here at the university level. And there are a lot of those traditions. We're going to have a debate about them in today's session. We're going to have a lecture about them. There are going to be speeches about them. But we're also going to have some music. I'm going to be hosting it for you today. My name is Victor Vlam. 16 years ago, as a first-year law student, I was sitting in one of those seats right over there. So it's very much an honor for me to host it here for you today. As I said, we have a varied program, so let's get started with that program immediately. And I'd like to give the floor back to Geert Duisters, the acting Rector Magnificus.
Thank you. As acting Rector Magnificus, I'm delighted to have the honor of asking you to accept the office of Rector Magnificus, my highly esteemed colleague, Professor Dr. Klaas Sijtsma. Klaas, may I invite you?
Dear colleagues, dear students, it is a great honor to be your Rector Magnificus for the next academic year. The fact that it is an ad interim appointment does not make it any less honorable or thrilling. Not only does the appointment fill me with pride and joy, the ad interim character will stimulate me to speed up some of the plans the Executive Board has. And perhaps I can add some of the typical assets those of you who know me probably will expect. I found it nearly impossible to say something original at the start of an administrator's acceptance speech. So here is the platitude of the day, and pay attention. Our wonderful university is facing serious and interesting challenges. Well, how about that? The content of the platitude is meaningful, however, because the challenges cannot be ignored. I mentioned Tilburg University's strategic plan, which is in dire need of implementation. Several steps have already been taken, but more steps are needed, and they are needed soon. Our university follows a strategy of controlled growth, both in number of students and in portfolio. In the past years, most Dutch universities have chosen this strategy, so nothing special going on. We've already taken huge steps, and our campus buzzes with activity like a beehive. Thinking about how to manage this growing activity has my ongoing attention, so that we can keep up with the growth and provide the best possible teaching. Talking about teaching. Education is one of the 3 tasks a university has by law. I'm sure that fathers and mothers expect us to provide their sons and daughters with the best possible education. And so do their sons and daughters, of course. Our staff, that is you guys, are the enthusiastic educators our students deserve. Here's another truism. Without our students, the university wouldn't exist. They are our capital. We are their hope for a great future. Universities are professional organizations with at least a few almost anarchistic characteristics. To be honest, I very much feel at home here. And I have spent my days in university since 1974, when I was 18. There is no other life for me. However, the relative freedom we have to organize things our way is also our Achilles heel. Presently, this is truer than ever. You only need to consult the newspapers and the news in general. We definitely are in need of harmonization of several aspects of our and your policy. Here are a few examples. Much of our research is scattered across small research units and even across individuals. We will need more focus by tightening our research profile. Another example. Our educational tests and rules for thesis assessment are often based on the alleged uniqueness of particular scientific areas. However, we urgently need a set of general rules for test construction and correction and thesis assessment, acknowledging some of the undeniable uniquenesses of particular areas, but not the other way around. Next example, we need a tighter adherence to the protocol of scientific promotions and do away with personal interpretations leading to questions we have trouble answering. Finally, research integrity as an institutional policy should be high on everybody's agenda. This is a difficult topic because if you start talking about it, people tend to think you're implying they do something wrong. That obviously is not the case, but adhering to the VSNU's Integrity Charter, not only in thought but also in behavior, for example, think of data storage and retrieval, is a challenge for all of us. Of course, this university has already taken many steps in all of these issues, and we are certainly on the right track. So I'm sure we will fix this agenda, with or without me, and let everybody see what we stand for. Accepting an assignment as rector is not a typical point on the agenda for the opening of the academic year. Therefore, I will keep this acceptance speech brief. I thank the Board of Governance for the trust they have expressed by appointing me. I also thank all who have given their advice concerning my appointment. Given the fact that I'm standing here, it must have been positive. Although I'm in favor of internationalization of the academy, I couldn't find the right words in English for expressing my simplest agenda. So let me end by saying, ik heb er zin in en ik hoop jullie ook. I'm looking forward to working with you and making our university even better than it already is. I wish you a pleasant afternoon. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Klaas, on your appointment. I'm very thrilled to introduce our keynote speaker here today. He's sitting over there. It's very much an honor for us to have him here today. His name is Professor Richard D Mccullough, and he's a professor at Harvard University. In fact, he's the Vice-Provost for research, which means he gives direction to all the researchers at Harvard University. He's best known for his work on developing printable electronic materials. In fact, in that regard, he holds 10 patents and founded 2 companies in the past. Let's give him a warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, Richard D Mccullough. Welcome. We are very happy to have you. Before you start with your lecture, you're going to talk to us today about your view about on digital innovation in relation to academic traditions. But I wanted to ask you something first, because there are a lot of first-year students here in the room. In fact, we can sort of check to see that. Who is a first-year student? Please raise your hand. Yes, a number of them. You've achieved a lot, pretty much everything you can achieve when it comes to academia. You're a professor at Harvard University. Is there any advice that you have for these people who are starting their careers in academia? Perhaps something you've done wrong in the past that you wish you had done differently?
Well, great. Thank you very much for the question. I think I could say very much about this subject. First of all, I was born into a family of very limited means, and I went to community college, and I almost flunked out in my first year.
You flunked out?
Almost flunked out. I had to drop most of my courses, and had to move home, and then eventually got my undergraduate degree, and was the first in my family to be educated. So I think the advice is that it's a marathon, and you should go slowly, and you of course will fail, but you will if you stick with it and you work hard. I'll give you some advice at the end that will say something to that about that. But working hard and sticking to it. I didn't always work hard, but as long as you continue to go in a positive way, then I think you will achieve great things. It's shocking that I'm at Harvard University. So it's
how did your parents react when you flunked out, and how have they sort of revised their feelings about that right now?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Well, this is an important lesson for first-year students. If you fail in your first year, you can still make it very far. That is at least something that is satisfying and good to know. I'm going to give you the floor to give your lecture to us. Again, we're very honored to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Well, it is a great honor to be here today, opening the academic year. I thank Sylvester for the invitation, and it's really great to be able to share with you some of the things today, and very happy to be here. And so I will get started on the lecture. So I will talk to you today about digital innovation and academic tradition, and a little bit of a look at the future. Digital innovation has made a huge impact, but when you look at it, it's made a huge impact in business as much as it has in academics. And I'm going to say this sarcastically. No, this is not a picture of me driving across Nevada going 135 miles an hour. That would be highly illegal. So it actually is, but I was looking for a good picture that shows that you move the needle. If you look at the companies from 1917 to 1967 to the present day, you'll see that digital innovation absolutely disrupted the business of the world. It certainly in the United States is what I'm focusing on here, because the data is easy to get to. And you will see that the original companies were really commodity companies as much as anything, providing oil and gas and coal and et cetera. Other than maybe the telephone, which sort of this is the first indication of some innovation starting to happen. But in '67, you see, at least in the U.S., a change in what's happening at the world, and you start to see the General Electrics of the world and some of these other AT&T continue. IBM now shoots up to the top. But this is all done, a lot of this has to do with the digital innovation starting to occur. And if you look in the present day, you'll see almost every company there is a company that's really wrapped up in digital innovation, including financial services. So there's a few, retail, Walmart and others, but many of these are really based in digital innovation. If you look at universities, you don't see this, that universities were impacted in the same way. And so if you look at, again, U.S. universities, you can see that the rankings of U.S. universities basically didn't change. And so in the United States. And part of this has to do with that our business is not necessarily disrupted, and I'll talk about that a little bit today. Why is tradition so important in the universities? Because universities still deliver highly desirable products, if you will. The students, the talent, the discoveries that changed the world. Many of the discoveries that were made that led to digital innovation occurred within the universities, certainly within companies as well, but within the universities themselves. Why is that? One of the reasons is because universities have a very unique place in the world today. We can take on hard problems and we can take a long-term view. And we can do that because that is our core business, is to generate the discoveries and to create, as the Rector said, the talent for the future. You are the future going forward. And we're in the we're in this really wonderful position that we get to know you and we get to help you get along and become that future. So another reason the universities and tradition are so important is because we create major benefits for society. If you focus on the life sciences and the physical sciences, these are some of the discoveries that were made in universities, or at least partially so, that led to all of these great things that we now use. Measuring, the one thing I always point to is the measurement of the magnetic moment of an electron won the Nobel Prize a long time ago. Who cares about measuring the magnetic moment of an electron, something about that has some magnetism around an electron that's moving around? Well, with that discovery, that led to magnetic resonance imaging, which has transformed medicine as we know it. So these areas are all of incredible importance, and much of that came out of the university. In social sciences and arts and humanities, of course, economics, law, many of the great things that go on at this university, these sort of theories and impacts on the world's economic, financial, economics, macro, micro, the way we understand markets, the way that we understand the way behavior affects the way people impact economics. All of these things are things that sort of came out of the universities going forward. So why are universities and traditions so important? It's because it's the people that make the difference. It's really the people that make the difference. It's you. It's the professors, it's the staff, it's the postdocs, it's the research staff, it's the students, undergraduates and graduate students. You're the ones that make the difference. You're the ones that challenge what is perceived reality and challenge what is thought to be fact. You look at and then challenge that to create new facts and new reality. And in addition to that, you look for these problems that can't be solved by any other way, and then look for solutions to those problems going forward. That's where many of the great discoveries come from. So I used to be at Carnegie Mellon about 8 years ago, and I had the great pleasure of meeting Herb Simons, a Nobel Prize winner in economics. And we asked him to come and give a talk to the Science College when I was the dean there. And I found this quote at the top, which you can read. This was the quote from Herb Simon. When he came and spoke to my faculty, he said it in a little bit more plain way. He said, the problem with the information age is there's too much information. And what are we going to do with that? Who has the time to deal with that? I mean, we're busy doing other things, And so how are we going to deal? They've done a great job generating all this information, but how are we going to deal with that? Well, the world's changed since then, dramatically so. Absolutely dramatically. And so, what we used to call, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all these things, these were dreams that people had, like Herb Simon, that we would use artificial intelligence and machine learning as a way to approach science going forward. And so a great thing happened where computer science, statistics, all these very quantitative mathematics, etc., physics, other disciplines came together with all the power of business and law and social sciences and others to start to apply all of the data that was coming out from all of these different disciplines and start to make impact on understanding what does this data mean? How can data help us to make decisions? So, you know, if you ask me, I would say, well, we're not really that far along on artificial intelligence. I mean, we're trying to make some of the big companies have tried to make, you know, sort of computers that can be physicians, and that hasn't really worked. There's ethical issues around making decisions about who gets a loan or a mortgage based on artificial intelligence. We're just not there yet. In some areas we are, you know, where you can sort of look at your behavior on the internet and make some decisions about the way you act as a customer, and then use that to build your business going forward. So some of that has been some of that has been effective. But there's a lot of ethics and a lot of other things that are going on here that we have a long way to go. So what would happen as we start to build these areas up? You already see autonomous vehicles. You know, in the future we'll probably see hopefully link-to-link vehicle driving, so when you get in traffic jams, people will link their cars to other cars so everybody will move at the same speed, and so there'll be no more traffic jams, I hope, and so you can choose in and out of that. That's what we're hoping for that. We expect more data-driven, computer-assisted decision-making, and still humans will make decisions, but we can be assisted by all the data that we have. As we look at all the data we have in universities, we don't necessarily capture all of that in decision-making. A lot of it's still done with what we think is going on. Will there be automated law? I don't know. People much smarter than I can talk of this. The Internet of Things is something that's going to be very interesting and very hopeful for us. The idea that everything will have sensors on it, your washing machines, your dishwashers, your ovens, everything. And when it breaks, it'll be connected to computers, and so it can go off to the company, and it says, yeah, you need a new motor on your washing machine, and you know, they'll text you back and say that, you know, we'll come and fix your washer on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Will you be available? You know, wouldn't that be nice? So now you have to call 55,000 times to try to find somebody to even answer the phone. Now we have, you know, push one now, you know, sort of approach to everything. But this will be critical because this sort of Internet of Things will lead to the competition of businesses in the future. According to the great Michael Porter of Harvard, he says that with Internet of Things, companies need to get on to this as the next big thing in business to be able to understand the customer data to drive product improvement going forward. This is a great example. My colleagues tell me that actually Huawei has the best camera on the phone that you can buy, and some of my colleagues buy the Huawei phone, not for the phone, they don't even use the phone, not even connected, but has a camera that's as good as a really very nice digital camera that you can buy. And why is that? Because they are in the position to collect every photograph that's taken in China, for example, pull that data in and optimize the visual representation through photographs. And so that's the power of data. Maybe not the best way to get the data, but it's not something we're looking at in terms of privacy, but it's something that's very interested going forward. The ones in bold here are the ones that I'm going to give you examples of today. So, take this hat off because it keeps falling. If we look at social sciences research, which is an area this university is well known for, if we look at the way social sciences research was done in the past, it's usually survey research, aggregated government statistics, etc. And if we look at social science, if you talk to my colleague Gary King, who's a professor who runs the Institute for Quantitative Social Sciences, Gary will tell you that there's a march of quantification in the social sciences as the social sciences move closer and closer to the sciences. And that is driven by shrinking computers, growing internet, data everywhere. Data becomes the replacement in some ways for the survey. And then advanced informatics and software is having a huge impact as we see that already impacting new industry going forward, including political campaigns, public health, economics, a lot of sports data mining that's used in the United States in baseball, for example. And so it is already having an impact going forward. So he claims that social sciences will be revolutionized through data science. So let me give you an example of Gary's work, which is really really beautiful, I think, piece of work and is very interesting. So if you look, Gary was interested in understanding censorship in China. And so he wanted to take a look at text analysis of all the social media posts in China and then look and see what is the Chinese government doing in terms of censorship. And so what could be the goal? Is it to stop the criticism of the state, stop collective action, stop criticism of its leaders and policies? And so Gary took a look at this, and what he found out is that it's okay if you say that the premier of China is a very bad person and has affairs and drinks too much. They won't censor any of that. So it's okay to criticize the actual leaders. And if you criticize the state and say, wow, the United States is so much better, this is communist stuff, it's horrible, they don't really care about that. What they really care about is collective action going forward. And I'll show you how he came to that. So he downloaded, this is the beauty of data science. He was able to capture sort of all the, let's just call it Facebook post or Twitter post or whatever that you would see, WeChat, from China. All the data, in almost instantaneously. And then once he downloaded that data, they can go back and look at all of these using text analysis, automated text analysis, to look and see what people are talking about. And then they go back and look at those same posts later, several days later or a day later, and then see which one of those posts no longer exist and which ones have been censored by the Chinese government. And so if you look at that, you can start to see there was a rise in criticism of the government. That was fine, but there was also the talk of starting to gather together to protest against the Chinese government. And once there started to be a huge spike in this sort of collective action, or people wanting to come together and protest like they are in Hong Kong, they censored almost all of these posts going forward. And that was followed by arresting one of the leaders of what they were calling someone who was inciting a new Jasmine revolution, similar to the uprisings in the Middle East. And this person was arrested. So using social media, the government using social media to follow these collective actions, but also a way to control people. And so he found through this research, the social sciences research, that they can also not only censor to stop a collective action, but they also can use it to measure and judge criticisms of local officials that they're in control of. So it's very interesting because it helps you to understand the way other nation states behave. It's also interesting in terms of what happens in terms of our political response, how you deal with those countries going forward. It's a I think, very fascinating piece of social science and shows you the power of digital innovation. Key point here is that digital innovation may not have changed the universities in terms of the rankings and the talent that we provide and the discoveries, but it changes dramatically and is changing dramatically the way we do research. I mean, in profound ways. And these are the examples that I'm giving you today. So here's another really interesting way, a different way that we do research in the university. I have a colleague named Koen Lakhani. He's a business school professor. Koen is a brilliant person. And Koen's research is to take on any kind of problem that has to do with big data, and then he creates contests, okay, that he opens to the outside world. Anyone can enter these contests to try to solve the problem. So it's citizen science or crowdsourced problem solving. It's absolutely brilliant. It sounds like it wouldn't work at all. I mean, how can you get people to take on problems at the highest order, logistics for shipping, defense delivery systems, solar panel arrays on the space station, alignment of DNA base pairing between gene-edited DNA and the original DNA? How can you use people that don't know anything necessarily about the domain science can attack these problems? It works. It's really shocking. So here's the problem. NASA had a problem. They have a space station, and they have these solar arrays on the space station. And they have two sets of solar arrays, the A solar arrays and the B solar arrays. The A solar arrays are wearing out, and they're going to fail soon. And the B solar arrays are the backup solar arrays, but they don't generate as much energy as the A solar arrays. So the problem is, how can you fix or do something with the B solar arrays so they generate as much power as the A solar arrays? Why is this important? Because if you don't do that, the space station won't have enough energy, and you have to just have to get rid of it. It'll be useless. So it's a big problem. So NASA tried to solve it internally. They couldn't solve it. They asked Boeing, who built part of the space station, the solar panel array, how can you help us fix this problem? They said, it's impossible. It's impossible. It can't be fixed. So what Kareem did is he said, well, maybe I'll take this on. And so he offered $30,000 prize. 21 days he asked people to solve the problem. He had over 450 registrants. He had almost 400 competitors and 2,010 solutions to this problem. And the crowd solved the problem and increased the power by 15,000 watts per hour. And the person who solved the problem doesn't know anything about solar panel arrays, or space stations, or anything like that, but was part of the crowd that was able to obliterate the internal NASA solution by just running a competition. And he's done this many, many times. Again, shipping logistics, shipping companies come to him and ask him to solve shipping logistics. He runs a competition, and he improves their shipping logistics. Again, this example I gave about alignment of DNA, they have ways of taking out a base pair, and sometimes one wrong base pair causes disease, and you can take it out through this CRISPR Cas9 gene editing. But when you do the gene editing, you have to know which base pair you took out and make sure that it was correct. And so you have to align it with what it looks like before. The crowd solved that problem 15 times faster. The crowd was able to deliver a solution 15 times faster than the state of the art. So really pretty. So this clearly is changing the way that we do research based on digital innovation. Last example is in precision medicine. The slides here are a little bit difficult to look at, and they're a little bit raw because I got these just got them, and so I was unable to sort of put my spin on them. This is a problem. It was a young child, 3 years, 10 months, was admitted to the hospital and was having some GI problems. Showed that the young child had ulcerated colon. They started the child on various drugs, and it seemed to be sort of in good shape until the child was 13 and a half. And then after that, there was a major flare, just horrible, horrible things. The child couldn't go to school, having to go to the bathroom every hour, just a really terrible situation. And so the child's father is a doctor at one of the Harvard hospitals, and asked Zach Kohani, who's a professor of biomedical informatics, head of our department at Harvard Medical School, if he could look at this problem and use data science to help him attack it. So what Zach had done is the graduate students literally went to the literature and they looked at the full genomic analysis for this intestinal bowel disease, and then they looked at the patients that were healthy and then the patients that were unhealthy. And then they determined that, just from the literature, the genomic patterns between the healthy patients and the unhealthy patients. And then they looked at patients that were once unhealthy and then treated with various drugs to see which ones crossed over into the healthy. So it doesn't always work this way, but there are cases where people have been helped out when they had this terrible bowel disease. And so what's so interesting about precision medicine is when you have a cancer, or you have a bowel disease, or you have, let's say breast cancer or colon cancer, everyone has a different colon cancer or a different breast cancer. But what they're finding is that these cancers can be categorized, and there's usually 5 or 6 categories. So if you have breast cancer, you might have this kind, and then somebody has this kind, and they all respond differently to drugs. But sometimes they respond the same if they're in the same category, if you're in this sort of same category. And so that's what they did here, and they were able to find and make a prediction about what drug, in this case it was a supplement, that should be able to make the patient better. And so they found that there were certain patients, this child fit in a category where they had seen other patients that were given a Chinese medicine herb that basically is like a compound that's similar to indigo, the dye you find in blue jeans. And this is a natural occurring indigo, and they have seen that it was able, at least just in one article, that this actually helped a patient. They gave the child this supplement, and the child is cured, completely cured, and still to this day, back to school, perfectly normal. The power of data science. These were graduate students, done on a computer. These are not physicians, and this is how we see precision medicine for the future. So what has Harvard's response been to digital innovations as we look forward? We've launched some new research initiatives. This is the area that I'm involved in. I'm in charge of creating these new initiatives. We started a new structural biology initiative with the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Boston Children's, Mass General. We purchased these 3 cryo-electron microscopes, which allow you to actually look at molecules at the molecular level, and it generates huge amounts of data going forward. And the sort of confluence between the data science imaging and biomedicine and data science is an area of importance. Quantum science engineering, of course, in this part of the world, this is an area of great strength, and we're working on that as the next generation of digital innovations, the computers of the future, using new quantum phenomena that have just been discovered. We have our Institute of Quantitative Social Sciences. I highlight Gary King's work. I launched the Data Science Initiative, which I'll talk about a little bit, and then we're working on an artificial intelligence initiative. These in particular will involve hiring a number of faculty, probably doubling computer science, doubling statistics departments at the university. Harvard Data Science Initiative is focusing on, from Zach Kohani's work, infectious disease, higher education financing design, astronomy. We have a very strong astronomy department. This is the medicine that I highlighted in Zach Kohani. We have Brendan Mead, who was the first one to ever predict, using data science, the earthquake in Japan. He actually predicted the earthquake before it actually happened. So this is a new wave, and this is the power of data science. So digital innovations, to remind you the talk, an academic tradition. So the change in research and the impact that digital innovations have had on research are profound, in the same way with business. In terms of the way we do work, and allows us to really go after these really complicated new areas, essentially going forward. And these are the research themes of our data science initiative. We just launched a new Harvard Data Science Review, similar to our law review and our business review. Xiaoli Min is the editor. And so the new version is online. I suggest you take a look at it. It's got some wonderful articles in there, one by Michael Jordan, from Berkeley, and a really interesting one on the Beatles. So take not the Beatle, but the Beatles. And so take a look at that going forward. We already had a big impact, over 100 people involved, 12 schools. The provost and I put money into it. They've been able to pull together cross-Harvard master's programs, which have been really successful. This was where we had to influence the schools. We have a large data science interdisciplinary postdoc fellows program where the postdoc works with someone in 2 different or 3 different schools on each one. And then we have our research grants and then our engagement with industry. So digital innovation's impact on research has been profound and will be continued to be profound going forward. And that is what you all will be part of going forward. So on teaching, it's a little different. Very difficult to see. We taught like this in BC. We taught like this in the Middle Ages, and we teach like this now. One of the reasons that this sort of works. We tried this flipped classroom where the students watch the things, online lectures, and then go to class and work problems in groups. This is a bit of a problem because our surveys have shown that the students don't like to go to class. So the flipped class they hate the flipped class. So we have to work on this going forward. It does make a difference if you go in terms of the impact. These are statistics, a lot of students don't buy the book. I bought the book. Most students don't read the book. I never read the book. I don't like to sit through boring lectures. So we have an issue, and I'm not really sure what we're going to do about that. So I'm not sure digital innovation is really revolutionizing our teaching, and it's a challenge for us. A lot of the students at Harvard learn through their peers on the internet. We probably should encourage that in group teaching. So we have a lot of work to do in this area. That's a real challenge for the Academy going forward. You may have heard of ArvdX as our online strategy. It's supposed to empower the faculty and improve teaching. We've invested a lot of money in this. It's massive, it's diverse, it's global, has a lot of people involved. It's got a lot of course offerings, and we expect that will continue to grow. But will it transform or revolutionize education? Not sure going forward. So how am I doing on time? 10 minutes, perfect. I'm almost done. So I think you can see from the talk so far that the digital innovation has made a tremendous impact on research. We don't know so much about teaching, but it also makes a big difference in business. But really at the Academy, it really rests with the people, and it really rests as much with the students as it does anything. So I took the advantage of this lecture from Herb Simon when I was at Carnegie Mellon or the Science College, and he said, how do you do great research? And I had to change the world. And so I like these very much. I think they're very simple, very good. So my advice to you as students and maybe faculty and others, be audacious. Don't be afraid. It doesn't matter. If you fail, you just keep going. Failure, often you learn more from failure than you do from success. So be audacious. Look for surprises and explain them. In sciences in particular, it's really important. The discovery of the microwave was a scientist had a candy bar in his pocket and was testing a cathode ray tube, and it emitted, and he was running an experiment, and the candy bar melted in his pocket. And from that came the microwave oven. So, these are the kinds of things that you see over and over again. X-rays were discovered completely by accident. When they gave off some X-rays, and there was a phosphorescent screen, and the scientists held their hand up and could see their bones and projected onto the phosphorescent screen, and from that we got X-rays. So a lot of great science discoveries are not made because of sheer brilliance and planning, but the ability to recognize that you don't understand what's going on, and then you have to explain it. Nor Bisbury boundaries. This is obviously heart and soul of this university. Use a secret weapon. Figure out what's your secret weapon. If you're really good with people, then use that as your secret weapon. If you're really good theorists, but you're also good at doing practical things as well, combine the two. If you're good at social sciences, but you're also really good at computer science, then use that. Talking about to the Dean of Humanities is a computer scientist, you know, the secret weapon of combining the two disciplines. Absolutely brilliant. So think about what your secret weapon is, and then look to use that. Never seek perfection. Perfection is the enemy of the good. Always seek to just do enough. If I was judged by perfection, I would definitely be living in Mesquite, Texas, okay? Because I am not a perfectionist by any stretch of the imagination, but I get it done, and getting it done is important. Stick with it. Remember, anything worth doing is worth doing, as the great Herb Simon said. Again, traditional universities play a key role, and you're the ones that make the difference going forward. I'll leave you with this quote from Theodore Roosevelt that basically just says, stick with it. You're going to make mistakes. The ones that do the best are the ones that keep trying. Do it with enthusiasm or dedicated to what you're going to do. And if you fail, doesn't matter. Just keep going. And with that, I wish you the best, and I look forward to your great achievements going forward and the great achievements of Tilburg University. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inspiring us with that lecture. I think these were some very interesting innovations in academia and also some very powerful examples, which I think makes it very interesting. Thank you so much. Please have a seat over there. And as we are moving on to the next part, which is something completely different, we're going to be enjoying some music here today. I'm going to introduce them in a second. They are the Gatsby Girls, and you may have seen them on television. They are known for taking current hits and putting them in some kind of a retro style. Now, they've given me a very important job here today because we're talking about traditions in the past, and this is perhaps something that used to be a part of every single home, but is probably not in your home today anymore. In fact, a lot of people might be seeing this for the first time. It's an old-time record player which is needed to actually start the music. Is there anybody who's never seen a record actually up close? Is there anybody who dares to raise his or her hand at that question? All right, I think, yes, thank you. There's at least one person. I would probably figure there are more people, but I'm told it's basically a compact disc, except slightly larger. And apparently two sides. We're going to see if this is the right side. And I'm going to put it on here. There we go. And as I drop the needle into the record, let's give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, the Gatsby Girls.
Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked at you as it fell, and now you're in my way.
I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way.
Your stare was holding,
Ripped jeans, skin was showing,
hot night wind was blowing.
Where do you think you're going, baby?
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. It's hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number, so call me maybe. Before you came in this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. It's hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number, so call me maybe. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. And all the other boys try to chase me, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
Thank you. For all the times that you rained on my parade, and all the clubs you get in using my name. You think you broke my heart, oh boy, for goodness sake. You think I'm crying on my own, well I ain't.
And I didn't want to write a song, cause I didn't want anyone thinking I still care. I don't, but you still hit my phone up. And maybe I'll be moving on, and I think you should be something I don't want to hold back. Maybe you should know that my mama don't like you, and she likes everyone. And I never like to admit that I was wrong, but I've been so caught up in my job, didn't see what's going on. But now I know I'm better sleeping on my own. Cause if you like the way you look that much, oh baby, you should go and love yourself. And if you think that I'm still holding on to something, you should go and love yourself. Oh, you should go and love yourself. Come on, baby, love yourself. I wanna hold him like they do in Texas plays. Fold him, let him hit me, raise it. Baby, stay with me. Love game, intuition, play the cards with spades to start. And after he's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on his heart. Oh, 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 oh. I'll get him hard and show him what I've got. Oh, 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 oh. I'll get him hard and show him what I've got. Can't read my, no, he can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Can't read my, no, he can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Pop, 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 poker face, pop, pop, poker face. Pop, 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 poker face, pop, pop, poker face. I wanna roll with him, a hard pair we will be. A little gambling is fun when you're with me. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, if it ain't rough, it isn't fun. Oh, 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 oh. I'll get him hard and show him what I've got. Oh, 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 oh. I'll get him hard, show him what I've got.
I'm not lying, I'm just stunning with my love glue gunning.
Just like a chick in the casino, take your back before I pay you out.
I promise this, check this hand, 'cause I am marvelous. I'm marvelous,
I'm marvelous, I'm marvelous, I'm marvelous. She's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no, he can read my poker face.
she's got to love nobody. Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Very nicely done. Thank you so much for this musical interlude. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for the president of the executive board here at Tilburg University, Koen Becking.
It's good to see all of you. Welcome to the opening of the academic year. With the theme of tradition and innovation, let me first of all congratulate Rector Magnificus, Professor Klaas Sijtsma, on his appointment. Klaas, I'm really looking forward to working together even more closely than we have done over so many years already. And thank you, Professor Geert Duisters, for being Rector Protocolaire for the past few months. It is remarkable that it was our students who chose tradition as the theme for this opening of the academic year, while we had originally decided on innovation. I would like to talk here about the connectedness of the two, as Rick already did in his lovely talk. Thank you very much. In the dystopian science fiction novel Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, Mustafa Mond, one of the New World controllers, says, "We haven't any use for old things here. Even when they're beautiful," asks the savage, the old school type, "particularly when they're beautiful. Beauty is attractive, and we don't want people to be attracted by old things. We want them to like the new ones." This classic was published in 1931, and over the years its impact has only increased. How do we value tradition and innovation today? The balance seems to be tilting in the direction of innovation and new technologies. The question is more topical than ever. The recently published report by the Van Rijn Commission, the Advisory Commission on the Funding of Higher Education and Research, and I saw that you have a new center on the funding of universities, so there's a lot to learn from you, I guess. They emphasized and promoted the funding and the development of technology, actually at the expense of the humanities and the social and medical sciences. That report came out just before summer, and it was heavily criticized by the Association of Dutch Universities in the Netherlands, which pointed out that the humanities are essential. And it was also criticized by the Royal Netherlands Academy of Arts and Sciences, KNAW. And I quote, "The weakness of the report is that the Commission has only looked at the system of scientific education on a macro level and from a financial perspective. In addition, the Commission's recommendations for 2020 and 2021 are causing far greater shocks to the system than the report suggests," end of quote. Our university has also protested, and today they owe in actie, Higher Education on the Barricades. They are protesting with hundreds of scientists in Leiden, where the Minister of Higher Education and Science is present today. The emphasis on technical disciplines shows a contempt for everything that this university stands for. Our roots, which represent ethics, the human dimension, striving for integrity, purity, and responsibility. Values that have been developed and recalibrated over the decades, with tradition and innovation going hand in hand. Tilburg University has been anticipating these developments for years. It started in 1964 with Max Euwe, world chess champion and professor of methodology of automated information processing at our university. He laid the foundation for the development of artificial intelligence at our university. At the same time that Euwe began here as professor, the transformation of the city of Tilburg took off, from being a textile-based economy to becoming a center for the development of a knowledge economy. The continuous development in the field of artificial intelligence is one of the driving forces of a rapidly changing world of technology, as Rick pointed out as well. AI is becoming an increasingly important part of our daily lives, as it is used in a wide area of day-to-day services. It is altering industries from finance to logistics and from IT services to the industrial sector with new products, processes, and capabilities. Today, Tilburg University plays a distinctive role in the technological developments in artificial intelligence. The university and the city of Tilburg are working together to strengthen the university's position as an innovator in the field of artificial intelligence. If we look at the past 5 years, Tilburg University, the municipalities of Tilburg and Den Bosch, the province of Brabant, together with corporate partners like ASML, Interpolis, CZ, DAF Trucks, KPN, Philips and Rabobank, have invested over 150 million euros in artificial intelligence. We have growing bachelor and master students numbers in AI. We have over 50 academic staff working in AI, and we are proud to be founder of initiatives like the Geronimus Academy of Data Science and Mind Labs. And we've only just started. Here's Mind Labs. Just like chess, artificial intelligence is about thinking ahead. Tilburg and Tilburg University have an excellent position in the field of AI. And we need to expand that, combining our strengths and our commitment. The way forward for Tilburg University is to cherish and strengthen these partnerships that we already have. Unlike the way things were in the past, knowledge in artificial intelligence is not reserved solely to one party. Knowledge in artificial intelligence develops best when pursued in a collaborative fashion. And in this regard, we would like to reach out to those who have the same future-proof and entrepreneurial mindset. As said, the focus on the human side of digitalization is very important. It is the very raison d'être for this university. We all know that a one-sided development of robotization, artificial intelligence and technology can be dangerous. Professor Corinne Prins pointed this out in her fascinating speech on the occasion of the Rector's farewell. It is increasingly difficult to protect privacy information as a result of ever more intelligent algorithms. Prins said, and I quote, "We need to think about the impact of technology on our public values. We must continue to operate as humans, otherwise robots and technology will win. And we must not lose our grip on technology by disconnecting intelligence from awareness." End of quote. This also leads to unprecedented questions about governance. Tilburg University has a long tradition of interdisciplinary research in the city and the region, its politics and governance. Recently, the Tilburg Institute of Governance was founded as an alliance of the Tilburg Law School and the Tilburg School of Economics and Management. This links up perfectly with what we are trying to achieve here at this fine university with our contributions to enhance society. What we have been working on for years and indeed decades. And also, let me remind you once more, with technology and artificial intelligence. Again, I would like to warn against overestimating technology. At the same time, I want to keep us from adopting a kind of self-imposed underdog position. I would therefore like to once again address our colleagues from the hard sciences, as I have done for many years. We need one another. We are already living in a digital society, but let us strive to achieve a sustainable digital society. Tilburg University is driven by engaged academics who aim to understand and advance society with solidarity, entrepreneurship, a sense of responsibility and empathy, values demanded by our society. We aim to build on our traditional values, while also acknowledging that our society is experiencing complex social and ecological challenges. Therefore, this summer, the University Council has adopted our own sustainability plan. Besides working and cooperating with partners in the region, we also have a responsibility to work on societal issues elsewhere in the world. And it is with pride that I can announce that our Zero Hunger Lab, which means to reduce hunger in the world fully, has received a 1.2 million euros subsidy. And it's all about using artificial intelligence, data science to get rid of poverty. In conclusion, let me summarize and round off. Our university is facing a new challenge, as Klaas pointed out. We need to make clear that the so-called soft sciences are not there merely to serve the development of technology and to smooth off the roughest edges. Rather, it's the other way around. Without a wide range of disciplines like law, ethics, philosophy, and religion, economics, and the social sciences to assist us, technological developments can be hazardous. It is all about finding the right balance between innovation and tradition, between the humanities and the social and medical sciences on the one hand, and the hard sciences on the other. More so than the humanities and the social sciences, it is the hard sciences that need to become aware of the risk of bias. They can always call on us to work closely together and vice versa. Our recent initiatives, as I have pointed out earlier in this speech, have shown that interdisciplinarity and cooperation are the way forward. As regards the future of the humanities and the social sciences in relation to the government, I would like to point out that there are other ways of doing things. In Germany, the federal government and the Bundesländer have recently concluded a coherent research and innovation pact with the agreement that the budget for research and development, as well as for higher education, will continue to grow by 3% a year until 2030. This requires a vision of innovation and decisive action. Perhaps this initiative can serve as an inspiration for our own government. The recent initiative for an investment fund by Finance Minister Hoekstra is promising in this regard. The contrast between tradition and innovation is an artificial one. The humanities, the mathematical and physical sciences, the social sciences, they cannot do without each other. We don't want a brave new world, we want a sustainable digital society. Rounding off, I want to thank the students for their input today. You also cherish the ritual of the opening of the academic year. The gowns, the cortege, your own traditions in student life. And these are subject to innovation too, aren't they? Together, let us continue to strive for perfection, even if we may never completely achieve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Koen, for those words. I'd like to invite you up right here because we're going to have a discussion about this very topic. You can choose any seat which you'd like. We have the four board members of the major student associations to have this debate with about traditions at Tilburg University. For most people, it started with the topweek. It then went on to this very event that we're having here today, the opening of the academic year, and there are many more traditions. The question is, what is the value of those traditions? Perhaps should they change? Will the procession of professors in the future be replaced by a robot who is carrying the beetle? All of those things are possible, and that's what we are going to discuss. Let's give the 4 board members of the Students' Association a big round of applause as they make their way up to the stage. We are very happy that you are joining us today because we have various generations here to discuss this topic about tradition, which is quite important. Before we start with the debate, let's have a quick round of introductions so people know exactly who you are. To start with, ladies first, of course. You're Kaylee Schmitz. Let's use the microphone. I think she has to push the button to speak. If the light turns out, we can all hear you. Just to get it down clearly, how many years have you been studying here?
For the past 5 years, I've been studying here at Tilburg University.
And what have you been studying?
I've been doing my bachelor degrees in international business administration, and now I'm doing my master degrees in both finance and international management.
And in this regard, it's important to mention that you're the president of Olaf.
Yes.
There are perhaps people here who have not chosen a student association here. If not, she would probably like to talk to you, but not just you. I think all of you would like to talk to those people because they're sitting in a very friendly fashion next to each other, but in fact, they're pretty big rivals, I would say, to make sure that we're getting a lot of students there. You want to make sure you get all those members. The next person is Jester Koldijk. Jester, you are the president of VIDAR. You are, how many years is that you're studying here?
I also have been studying here for the last 5 years.
And what have you been studying?
I finished my bachelor in economics, and I have finished half of my master's in economics, and I will finish the rest of my master once I'm done with being a president of VIDAR.
Exactly. All right, we're very happy that you're here. And then sitting next to Jester is Patrick Buitenhuis. You are the Vice President and Secretary of the IESN Board. How many year is this for you?
This is also my 5th year.
Your 5th year. I'm sensing a theme here. And what have you been studying?
I did my bachelor in business economics. I finished it, and I'm currently doing my master in accounting.
Okay, cool. And then we have Koen, of course. And then finally, sitting on the other side of the table is Corné Marchal. You're the president of Plato. You have been studying here for 5 years as well?
No, this year is my 4th year.
4th year, wonderful. And what have you been studying?
Business economics.
Okay, cool. Koen, thank you also for joining us in this discussion. I've actually, my interview skills are quite on par today because I've gotten Professor McCullough to admit that he actually flunked out in his 1st year. As a student, when you were sitting in one of those seats, how were you as a student?
I'd say I studied enough, and I enjoyed life. And I studied in Amsterdam, by the way, political science. And yeah, so Amsterdam has a lot of attractive other things than studying.
Would you be willing to share what those things were?
Some later tonight.
All right, let's get started. We have a couple of things that we want to discuss here. And let me just throw it into the group here. Is it important to maintain academic traditions? What are your thoughts on this? Who says, yes, it's incredibly important to maintain these academic traditions that we have here? Kaylee?
Yes, I feel it's very important to maintain academic traditions because these form the foundation of our university.
Why do they form the foundation of the university?
Well, it's where it all started with. So by moving forward, I don't think we should forget where it all started with and our main traditions and foundation of university life.
Yeah. Is there anyone that says we need to change these traditions? It's time to get rid of them? Is there anybody that says at the very least, you know, perhaps we should look at innovating that? I mean, things like this, they cost a lot of money. You can perhaps argue you can save money by not hosting an event like this and perhaps putting it into research. Is that not something you agree with, Jester?
No, I think it's doubtful, but I want to add maybe something to Kaylee because I think it's not only the foundation of what we do, but it's also a connecting factor. And I had to laugh a bit because of the pictures you showed. I think they were from VIDAR and from Olaf, and I think they also show what people do at VIDAR, for instance, is rowing, and at Olaf they also do partying. And I think it's also academia, it's a connecting factor because everybody here works hard to produce the best research done.
Yeah.
And I think this is also a bit of the tradition over here, that people come together and they also have a moment to celebrate their research and open such an academic year.
Exactly. So it creates a community of sorts.
Yes, I think so.
Is it perhaps a community that is hard for people who are not part of that community to enter into that community? I think sometimes universities get the reputation for being elitist, and perhaps these rituals enforce that perception. Is that somebody's view? Corné, what do you think of that?
No, I don't think so. Tilburg's very open for new students. For me, it was very open. So
yeah, you felt that you were sort of just welcome here, and you never felt it was elitist or whatever.
No, for me, no.
Okay, maybe so I can disagree with it a bit. Maybe because I can give a personal example. My girlfriend actually entered university this year, and she came from an HBO, so it's the HBO. Yeah, I was not prepared. I was not really faced with English today. I thought it was in Dutch, so I'm still adapting. No, but she was actually very nervous to start at a university because it's a big step forward. However, I do not think that traditions actually made it elitist because it's simply a big step for a lot of people to take. And I do not really think that traditions have a negative impact on it.
Okay.
But I do think sometimes universities can become a bit elitist for some people.
And then it can become an entry barrier for people who are coming from different kinds of education.
For example.
Yes, absolutely. Can I poll the room for a second? If I were to ask you, is it important to maintain academic traditions? Who says, yes, it's extremely important to maintain academic traditions? Please raise your hand. And that seems like a pretty good majority. Who says it's not at all important to maintain these academic traditions? Perhaps we should even get rid of a lot of them? There is only a few people who are raising their hand, but a lot of people are fearing. There are a couple of people over there. Okay, wonderful. Let's move on to a slightly related topic in that regard. Digital education, it's something that Professor Mccullough talked about. Will it replace the traditional way of attending lectures? Digital education seems to make life easier, perhaps better, more convenient. Patrick, what is your view on that? Yes, I think it's, try pressing it again just to be sure. Yes, I think it's on now.
Yes, now it works. I think it will definitely replace. When I can watch my lectures online, I don't think I will go to the actual lectures, just out of convenience.
Isn't that the awful part, though, that there's a huge lecture hall, and there are two people there?
Yeah, that would be awkward, but I think I would stay at home, to be honest.
Corné, you wanted to interrupt?
Yeah, I think I can speak for all of us. For the active student, it's way more easier to schedule your own time. So that's better for us, I think. So.
Yes, that I think is the benefit. You're able to schedule the lectures when you actually want to watch them, when you have the time to watch them. Do you actually watch them, though? Yeah?
I really
Kelly?
feel that digital education has two sides, because it does trigger the active student, but it also triggers the lazy student to not go to class anymore. And I also feel that going to class also adds the extra dimension of group work, which is very important for your studies.
Yes, exactly. Koen, if I may ask you this question, I think digital education is really the future. I think a lot of people consider it that way. How do you, in the board, look at that?
Well, I'm actually completely with our keynote speaker here. We don't know much about it, I'd say. So many years ago, when I started here, one of the senior staff said, Koen, tear down all these walls, because in 5 years' time, we don't need these buildings anymore. Everything will be digital. And I also visited their the Harvard X Lab 6-7 years ago. Many millions of dollars went into it. Of course, there's some online offering, but in the end, finally, it will be we'll find a new balance. And I'd like to underline the importance of the relation between the teacher and the student. Physically present, teamwork, interdisciplinary work. So, of course, it'll add good and interesting digital fast things, but it's going to be, I think, a nice balance.
I would imagine that for a lot of professors, it is convenient to get some direct feedback from people if you're actually watching them. So you can see if people are understanding it and perhaps explaining it further, giving more examples, which is harder to do if you're talking to people digitally.
Yeah, so as I remember what they have in Harvard, and I don't know exactly where they are now, but you had this wall, like a circle, and you had like 40, 50 students from all over the world, and a teacher centered in the middle of the room, and he was completely interactive with the 50 students. So and that looked promising for some things, so that if you have the new business, whatever, ethic course, then you can do the basics, etc., etc., etc. But I do think that the more difficult questions, the more personally related questions, you still need the real contact.
Yeah, exactly. A question for the students here. What do you think is the most important thing at university that definitely should not change? There are a lot of things technologically changing. There are things changing because of innovation. What do you think is absolutely valuable that should not change? What is perhaps the thing you enjoy the most about university? Kaylee?
Well, going to class together also, of course, has a social factor. And I also feel that going to class together leads to discussion. I think discussion is very important for academic education.
Yeah, so having a discussion, disagreeing with people, that's perhaps a good way of actually understanding the topic at hand.
Yes, and it also forces you to think out of the box, because if you only have digital education, you only do what is asked from you. But if you really have discussion, you are forced to think out of the box, to accept other insights from other students, and you will not have that by only having digital education.
Yeah, I think it's actually a great point, because I think a lot of people who have been to American or British education systems, there's a lot of discussion taking place. It's a two-way street in every classroom, and that's a great way of learning, absolutely. That's very valuable. You wanted to say something, Jester?
Yes, I agree with the point, and I think that's exactly the reason why digital classrooms can never fully replace the original classrooms, And I think, for instance, in my study economics, it's fairly small. So you have the beautiful combination of discussing with each other, but also the discussion in class with the professor is possible.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of the classes have like 30 people in them.
Yeah.
And often the professors also stimulate people to really discuss in class. And I think that's also one of the most valuable parts of studying here.
Yeah, exactly. So getting the discussion going is one of the most important things. Any other things, Patrick? What do you think is one of the most valuable things that you find at a university, which perhaps makes you go to campus, which you enjoy doing, and what you think is useful?
It sounds really strange, but I think the group assignments, just make you work together, socialize. It's just, nice to do.
Exactly. Okay, so those things are valuable. Which traditions would you say are valuable? Because I've listed a couple of them. The top week is obviously a valuable, I think, tradition. I think a lot of people enjoy that, have some great memories there. Some people do some things that they perhaps would like to forget. Some people are now looking away, hopefully, that I'm not going to give the microphone to them right now. But usually it's a very valuable time, a great time to have experiences. What are some other valuable traditions here at this university that you think are important? And perhaps just to sort of, throw this into the group here, again, you could save a lot of money by just, not organizing an event like this. Perhaps we should abolish this. I mean, you're allowed to say it here today. Is there anybody who would like to argue for that? Koen, what is your, what is the most valuable tradition according to you? What do you like the most?
I'd say, in the end, the freedom to think and talk and meet people and do that in a free environment, with people that have so much to offer in terms of what they know that they can share with you, and everything you can learn from them, from others. And you need institutions like these to make that the best surroundings to do so. I mean, after the Roman Catholic Church, I think universities are the most sustainable institutions in history. And there's a reason for that, I think. So I'm into innovation, but I also cherish traditions, because, we are only here for like a few years, some for 10, 20 or 30 years, but then still things, we almost exist already for 100 years, so it will continue to flourish.
In the last couple of seconds that we have here, or last couple of minutes rather, let me go to you, Professor Mccullough. Harvard University, at least in my mind, is a university with lots of traditions. Is that correct?
Yes.
What do you think of them?
I think they're really wonderful. I think we, in academics, as students, we all work so incredibly hard. You know, we're doing research, we're traveling, we're doing all this sort of stuff, trying to, you know, make the university better, making the world a better place. And so these academic traditions are, in some sense, a pause to celebrate, you know, and reflect upon what we're doing. And so it's really nice. I almost didn't go to my own graduation. And then I went to the graduation, and then, you know, you realize that that's a time to reflect on, you know, that it was an accomplishment and what is actually important going forward and a milestone in your life. And so, and the social aspect is so important in these sort of events. So I think it's, you know, it's like a balance in life, you know, and we work hard, but we also have a time to reflect, as talk with each other as human beings. So I think the balance, the students said it beautifully in terms of the way they described it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think when it comes to American universities, I think graduation ceremonies are usually one of the most exciting things. Let me quickly go to two people who raised their hand for one of those questions I asked earlier. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I think if I remember correctly, you actually felt that academic traditions were incredibly important.
Oh yes, but that's not so difficult to understand because the background of my own academic discipline, theology, is completely built on traditions and reflects on those traditions. Yeah. And I agree with what was said about the importance of a university. It is indeed a place where you can think the unthinkable. Where you can engage in what other people... No, that's not important. Well, thank you very much for that. At the end of what you said, what is worth doing is worth doing. And so studying these traditions and trying to get a better understanding of these traditions and their importance in our own history and identity, well, that is worth doing. So all of you change to theology.
Very good. There was somebody here, I think it was you, who raised your hand when it came to these traditions should be abolished. Why do you feel they should be abolished?
Well, I think in the sense that you put it, it was very strong, but I think my opinion is more that I don't value traditions that much because I think that society is like changing very rapidly, and because we're holding on to the traditions, it's like we're becoming more inflexible than we can be. Yes. That's kind of the gist of it.
So they're holding us back, these traditions?
Yeah, in a sense.
That's, I think, a very valid argument. All right, thank you very much for... I put you on the spots, and both of you, by the way, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to wrap it up. Let's give our panel here a big round of applause. They've done a very good job in enunciating their viewpoints. You guys may have a seat. All right, we need to wrap it up here for today, and that means that I need to give the floor back to Klaas in just a moment, but not before I mention a couple of very important things. First of all, I invite you all to have a drink with us afterwards, right outside of the auditorium, but please only leave your seat after all the professors have left the room. All right, thank you very much for being here. And now to officially close today's session, I'm going to give the floor back to Klaas in, I guess, what is his second official act as the new Rector Magnificus.
Well, I'm going to do many more things than this, but this is one of them. May I kindly request you to stand up, and may I ask the male professors to take off their caps. I close this session with a prayer. May our search be instilled with gratitude, may mercy be our guide, and may love go before us. This academic session is closed.